The 201 17th Street building is a great example of how Perkins+Will can bring international quality work globally in any market anywhere. Something like LEED is not just an afterthought, but it's integrated into the process of every single project we do, so that when we take on a project like 201 17th Street, the best design processes for green design are immediately incorporated into the process, that we're working all the way through, not at the end, but at the beginning, middle, and end, and during construction, to have a superlative result in terms of green design. So this is a LEED Gold building, and that makes it one of the only 2 LEED Gold buildings, office buildings in the city of Atlanta right now, and probably only a couple dozen in North America.
The challenge of this project was to do the second building on 17th Street, and 17th Street is scheduled to be the major urban street and at Atlantic Station. That is, it's going to have offices and hotels, retail. So it's kind of a large, dense, mixed-use street, much like streets that you see in other major cities like Park Avenue in New York. The first building, which is the Wachovia building, was originally the SunTrust building, really had an interesting challenge because it had to set the relationship between Atlantic Station and the city. And that building dealt with its appearance from the expressway. So it made a major effort in terms of making a statement at a sky level so that you could read the building. The building 201 17th Street is the first building that actually addresses 17th Street directly. So what we did is we turned the building, and the way that we designed the building, allowing for a full reading of the columns as they come to the ground, addresses 17th Street directly. The skin of the building is done in such a way that when it comes down to the street, it goes to an all clear glass wall so that you can see straight into the lobby. The columns that appear out of the building form an arcade, which, even though this is a very modern building, is a very traditional architectural approach towards relating to the city, so that there's actually a place where people can walk under cover, whether it be for shade of sun like we're having today, or from rain. The colonnade is sort of a stately feature that creates the relationship between the building and 17th Street, but we also wanted the building to have a light appearance to it so that it sits lightly on the ground. And if you notice, the glass wall, as it comes down, goes past the face of the bottom floor, which suggests the idea that the building itself is very light and is hovering over the street. The difference between the traditional buildings and modern buildings is that traditional buildings had bearing walls, and they were held up by the walls themselves. Modern buildings are held up by internal structure, so that the exterior walls are free to have as much glass as possible. So whenever you put punched windows in a building, whether it be an office building, or whether it be a research building, or whether it be a house, you're doing that because you want the look of a punched window. In the situation of an office building, or in my opinion, most buildings, I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to have as much daylight and views as possible.
This building is important to Atlanta because it's going to be LEED Gold certified. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal to me personally. It's a big deal to Perkins+Will firm-wide. It's part of our philosophy. Sustainability is an issue that we all need to be concerned about, and the more LEED certified sustainable buildings that Atlanta can collect, Atlanta's going to be on the map.
Well, I think, first of all, the sustainability issues with the building are, one, just where it lies in the city. The brownfield reclamation that went on with Atlantic Station as a whole, and the overall infrastructure of a central plant and the things they've done before we even came along was an excellent opportunity for Perkins+Will.
The other issue with Atlantic Station is that the way that this development is designed, there's a plinth which creates the parking underneath the development, and there's holes that are created in which the buildings fit into and then relate directly to the parking, which occurs below the street level. The hole that was created for the building that we did is the smallest of the holes at Atlantic Station. So we had the double challenge of dealing with a building that was going to be lower than the first building and also smaller in floor plate than any of the other future buildings. It was also moved very close to the first building. So we were concerned about the relationship of our building to the first building and letting light penetrate into the project. So what we did is we shaped the building by scooping out the corners on the southeast and southwest of the building in order to create a more slender proportion to the building on the south side and allow more light and more distance between the first building and our building, and then the next building and our building. We also had to really deal with the issue of the fact that this building was going to be a significantly shorter building than the first one. And that's an issue that a lot of architects in cities frequently encounter, which is how do you deal with a medium high-rise building? Sometimes those buildings are not as successful as they could be because they want to look taller than they are. So we were very concerned right from the beginning that this building needed to be comfortable with its height. So we really did a very careful exercise in detailing the building and the way that it was shaped, the way that it was articulated vertically, so that there would be a clear bottom to the building, a clear body, and a clear top. Just as the building connects at a street level, it's important that the building connect at a sky level. So here you see the terrace that's formed on top of the building with the trellis that's overhead providing shade for occupants of the terrace. The building looks out onto downtown Atlanta and onto midtown Atlanta and has a very close connection to it, so that you're always conscious of the fact that the building is a building that's part of the city.
With 201, what I found fascinating is we had been given almost a predestined building based on who they knew were going into the building. The financial model dictated the floors, and then the parking deck or the infrastructure of Atlantic Station basically provided this opening, which was basically our footprint of the building. The interesting dilemma, and usually buildings with strong challenges become probably your best work, but was how to create a stature and proportion of this building that would work aesthetically and at the same time satisfy the program and the needs of the client. We had talked with the client, I think at maybe our second or third meeting. He had made the comparison of the small jewel or the jewel box of Atlantic Station because it was programmed to be the smallest building. But I think overall its small stature and proportions were worked out, and very happy with the building and could be prouder, and I think the client shares that view that we truly have made the jewel box of Atlantic Station.